Friday was not a good day for democracy. The Supreme Court basically passed some laws that basically say that if you're, if you're the child of an illegal immigrant here in America, then, well, you get to get out of the country too. If you are a child in school and the school starts teaching LGBTQ stuff, then your parents have every right to get you kicked off class. And also, if you live in a red state that frowns on pornography, they have every right to tell you, don't go to this porn site. So, this is what happens, folks, when you have a Supreme Court that is six Republicans and 3 Democrats. And unfortunately, the 6 Republicans, many of these 6 are from Drumpf. And let's remember something, that Drumpf was not elected president. He was chosen by this idiotic, outdated system called the Electoral College in 2016. But then again, the Democrats really shit the bed when they basically announced that, we're not going to have Bernie Sanders be our president. We don't want Bernie because Bernie is not a friend to billionaires. And so this is what's going on. So here's the rest of the story. Of course, the birthright citizenship situation, let me tell you something. I've met, folks, my next door neighbors are Mexicans. Very nice people. They've even given us food and stuff. And, we've been very supportive of them. They've really helped us a lot. Very nice people. And it will be a shame if, I don't know how illegal they are, but it would be a shame if they're kicked out of our country. I mean, really nice, understanding people. We had a situation a couple of years ago. We paid somebody to fix our fence at my house, and the fence was never fixed. And the person bailed on us. So guess what he did? He decided to put up a fence himself. And he was a godsend to us. He was a very nice, gentle person. And, and Trump wants to paint these people as murderers and rapists. And I'm like, then who are you? Jeffrey Epstein's best bud. He molested women. He bankrupted companies. Guess who? What else? When Melania, his wife, gave birth to Barron, she was an illegal immigrant. Maybe these 2 need to be kicked out of our country. I don't know, folks. And of course, LGBTQ+ stuff. I know. When I was a kid, you see, I grew up in tiny Elk Rapids, Michigan. And Elk Rapids is very lily white. And there were kids who were exempt on a few things because of the way their parents were. I mean, I remembered there were kids who decided not to take who were not allowed to take sex ed class because of the way their parents are. I even remembered there was a girl I personally knew in school who, unfortunately, I shouldn't say unfortunately, who never stood for the Pledge of Allegiance. And the reason why was because she was Jehovah's Witness. I mean, it didn't start with Colin Kaepernick. It started, Jehovah's Witnesses don't stand for the flag of the United States of America. Don't ask me why, because I'm not Jehovah's. But the thing is, so my dad is a mega Republican. He watches Fox News a lot, and as I've mentioned, he watches Fox so much that, 6 years ago he purchased this LG TV, beautiful TV, when he bought it, $2,500 from Best Buy. Today, it's probably worthless because he watches Fox News so much that the logo's all burned into the screen. If the screen turns green, you get Fox News logos all over the place. And someday we're going to have to buy a new TV. Hopefully something that's not LG. Well, maybe I'll give Samsung another chance. But let me tell you a little story. On Saturday morning, I had to go to work. We're swamped at work. And what happened was I woke up and Dad was watching Fox News, unfortunately. So I had to withstand some Fox News. Now, normally at 4 o'clock in the morning, they carry a repeat of the Ingram Angle, whatever the hell that show's called, Laura Ingram. Laura wasn't on that night. Some other guy hosted. And he had a woman who championed this new law to pass. And she said that in every other word that came, it was a black woman named Billy, Billy. Now here's her story. Every other word that came out of her mouth was Jesus Christ. And I'm like, okay, it kind of reminds me of Mike Malloy many years ago on his show when Obama won the presidency in 2008. He talked about there were so many pro-gay legislation that was up on the docket, up for vote, and they all didn't pass. And part of the reason why was because Obama brought the black vote, but at the same time, Obama attracted a lot of black folks, and a lot of black people are very homophobic. As a matter of fact, I was a former member of the United Church of Christ, and the church I went to was open and affirming to LGBTQ plus people. But the church that Jeremiah Wright preached at, which was Obama's church, was not open and affirming. It was a black church. And my theory is black people just don't like gays. I mean, maybe that's why Dave Chappelle spewed a lot of jokes about transgender people in his several of his Netflix specials. I mean, to each their own. But then again, there's that long heated debate about 1 Corinthians 6:9. Some versions of the Bible say that, Jesus hates gays, but that same line is either male on male prostitution and effeminate people. I mean, it's a very heated debate. And it's like, this is why I think too many men over the years have taken the Bible and turned it into their book, and not about Jesus. And it's all about how much money can you give the church, how much money can you give them. It's not about how helping the poor, helping people in need. That's what Jesus was all about. And not only that, there was that verse in the Bible that said, where Jesus said that if you, if you're a wealthy guy, then you got to donate everything you got. It's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a wealthy person to go to heaven. That's how the Bible works. That's the Jesus I like, not the Jesus of shame on you, because that's what a lot of churches do. Shame on you if you're gay. Shame on you if you look at porn. Shame on you if you're not wealthy. But that's what a lot of churches are. Oh, man. But then there's the issue of porn. The Supreme Court did rule in the favor of Texas because Texas had banned several porn sites like Pornhub and X-Hamster and all these websites that feature pornography. And what happened was the Supreme Court ruled that states have the right to, force these sites to have, basically force them to give ID and all that crap, and people don't want to do that. And of course, there's always a lot of workarounds like VPNs. The truth of the matter, folks, is, let me explain something to you. My parents, just 12 folks, just 8 days before my 12th birthday, my mom and dad separated. And my mom took almost everything out of the house. The VCR, my Super Nintendo, all the cool things we had. And every time I had visitation with my father, I had nothing. We didn't, all we had was a Betamax. All we had was, just a regular Nintendo. I had nothing. And then what happened was, one day my dad and I went to Grand Traverse Mall in Traverse City. That's where we lived. And so what happened was, there was a bookstore called B. Dalton. B. Dalton was owned by the same folks who owned Target and Hudson's. Yeah, Dayton Hudson Corporation. Of course, as you know, it became Macy's through several trade-offs, and Macy's is now gone at Grand Traverse Mall, but there's still Target. And of course, Macy's is going to be, the Macy's property was purchased by a company that's going to be changing it into, they're going to split up into a couple of stores. And what happened is that rumor is Barnes & Noble might be one of them coming to town. So anyway, here's the rest of the story. B. Dalton sold Playboy magazine. And so my dad decided to purchase an issue. It was the issue that featured a woman named Carol Shia. Remember her? She was that Israeli chick who was a New York City cop who posed nude for Playboy. And she got fired for it. And I was 13 at the time. And it was like, it wasn't the first time I saw a naked woman. It wasn't. But my dad showed that he had to work harder, because he was now competing against my mom. And, at that point, my mom and my dad's relationship became less than amicable. Because my dad, my mother was now dating the man that she, was sleeping with instead of my dad. Met him at work. But here's what happened. Not long after my dad gave me that Playboy, and he gave me a few others afterward, with Pamela Anderson and all that. Jenny McCarthy. She was my girlfriend growing up. Even though she turned into a royal, see you next Tuesday, unfortunately, because of her batshit crazy antics that have now influenced people like RFK Jr. Anyway, what happened was, my dad took me to my uncle's house. I had an uncle that lived over by Flint, and he had hardcore pornography sitting on his table. And we're talking like Club Magazine. And we're talking about beautiful women with penises in their mouths, guys licking girls' vagina, girls drinking a guy's cum, stuff like that. And guess what? I had questions for my dad, and he had answers, and he told me, this is what couples do, son. They fuck. They suck. It's normal. And you know what? He's right. A healthy sex relationship is the key to a lot of good things in life. And you know what? When I think about that experience, I think about the religious right and what they have done for decades, maybe even centuries, to get us away from porn. And way back in the 1960s, there were these little movies made by the Catholic Church, and I think, and they've all become cult movies, like Perversion for Profit and Pages of Death. Pages of Death was a movie about two detectives trying to find, solve the murder of a little girl. And the culprit was a teenage boy who was looking at girly mags from the 1960s. And the girly mags that were around back in like 1961 or so, they were like, a soft R rating. Just boobs and butts, no bush. Oh, we can't show bush. Mm-mm. Yeah, even Hugh Hefner was anti-Bush. And what happened was so this is what happened. One of the people who funded these movies was a guy named Charles Keating. And in the late 1980s, Charles Keating went to prison because of his involvement in the savings and loan scandal that costed so many Americans their life savings. He was a crook. And it's like so many people who are anti-porn are disgusting human beings. And, this is one step, folks, of what Project 2025 is about: outlawing pornography. They wanted, they did it 19 years ago here in Grand Rapids when they outlawed strip clubs. You gotta now go all the way to Muskegon to go, and God bless Muskegon. Muskegon is a far more liberal town than Grand Rapids is. Even though it's not the greatest town in the world, at least they have a strip club. And, I've been to Odyssey Showgirls. I've been there once, and the girls were really nice. I had a good conversation with some of the ladies there and one of them lives in Grand Rapids too. And she even said that when she was working at Dames and Games, which is the bikini club by Eastbrook Mall, not Eastbrook, Shops at Turnpike, that was the old name. Anyway, she told me that she was hardly making a dime at Dames and Games. And at this club in Muskegon, she's doing pretty well. And I'm like, it's so sad that a woman has to drive all this way just to show her bush to people because there's no safe space in Grand Rapids to do it. And you know what? As a lifelong loner, it's like, look, folks, I've struggled with life. Okay, I mean, I don't want to get to the full details right now, but the sad truth is, I haven't been on a date in over a year. Grand Rapids is not necessarily, the friendliest town on earth. But all I can say is, sometimes, I'll tell you something. I've had more people screw me over in life than actual friends. And, it's so sad. I look at my grandparents. They met because of, my grandmother. My grandparents met because my grandmother's roommate was my grandpa's sister. And they met through they created a mutual friendship, and that's what happened. And they were married for 49 years and had 7 kids. And sadly, I don't have that option of having a good friend who wants to do something nice for me. Never had one. It was like I've had to deal with bullies. I had to deal with people stabbing me in the back. I've dealt with, a couple of people who ended up becoming predators of mine. I mean, it's sad. My life has not been the happiest. And I've always, even though I've been blessed with other good things in life, like working for the same people for 23 years, really understandable people. I've been blessed with a house. I'm standing right next to my wonderful car, I drive a car that's, only a few years old and not even 20,000 miles on it. I mean, I should be thankful for what I have, but what's sad is Grand Rapids is a very depressing town because it's tough to meet wonderful, good people. I mean, I even tried church, and I had to deal with people who tried to take money from me, and the same guy tried to get me to stalk his ex-girlfriend, and I mean, I had to quit that church. The point is, this is why I feel that in a way pornography is actually a gift from God to help lonely people. I mean, I know it sounds strange for some people, but it's so sad that you look at but but the point is, this is why, folks, we need to keep voting for Democrats. This is why we need to knock it off with Republicans, because all the Republicans want to do, look at what the Supreme Court has done so far. They've made it tougher for a woman to get an abortion, and now they've told parents, ultra-religious parents, that, they don't have to teach their kids about LGBTQ stuff. And they want to boot more immigrants from our country, and now they want to tell people who want to look at, pornography that, you gotta go use your ID now. I don't give a fuck. This is what, it's so sad that these people want to take porn away from us, and instead they want you to have a gun and a Bible. That's what they are. And this is not what has made America great. Oh, man. I don't know, folks. But you see, you have to realize what brought these, gave us these people. And sadly, it's corporate Democrats. If Bernie Sanders was president of the United States, if he had a great 2 terms in the White House, our country would be superb by now. But no, we're in a fucking hellhole. I mean, what's even worse was that yesterday I received the news in the mail that our water bill is actually going to double. And when I told my dad about it, he says, don't worry, son, Trump is going to fix it all. He's not going to fix it all, folks. It ain't going to do shit. I mean, that's what it is, folks. Donald Trump ain't going to do shit except give money to his wealthy buddies. And then on top of that, but here's another thing you got to think about. Look at what's going on right now. Look at what happened this week in New York City. This guy named Zohran was elected as the Democratic nominee for mayor of New York City. He beat out Chris Cuomo. And the truth is, this guy is ultra progressive. He wants to he wants to raise the minimum wage to $30 an hour. He wants to make housing more affordable. He wants the busing system to be free. He wants and he even wants to create government-run grocery stores. And I say yes to all that. And let me tell you the story, folks. Let me tell you a little story. He was talking about how, in a lot of cases, there are small towns in America that have government-run grocery stores. The city owns the supermarket, and they've run pretty well. Let me tell you a little story. One of the biggest news stories that happened this week here in Grand Rapids is one of the largest employers in town, which is Spartan Nash, was sold to another company called CNS Wholesale for how much? $1.77 billion. And the deal is supposed to end by the end of the year. So this means, in this company, CNS Wholesale, they own, excuse me, Piggly Wiggly, and they supply stores with the, what is it, the brand? Best Yet brand. You know, and they're saying this is actually a pretty good deal, because now what this means is they're going to try to keep prices low and make, create a bigger network of grocery stores. And, I have mixed feelings. This could mean less jobs in Grand Rapids, but it also says something. I live in an area of Grand Rapids where there were more former Spartan stores than current. Right now, I'm talking to you from the Kellogg Woods Park in Kentwood. Right now, I'm looking at people doing soccer practice. As you can hear behind me, there's a motorcycle. In this area of town, the Planet Fitness that's at 52nd and Eastern, once upon a time, that was a D&W supermarket, and then it became a family fair. And then Spartan closed it. And now it's a family fair. Not a family fair, but a Planet Fitness. Further down the road on, guy had Deftones. Somebody's got a good taste in music. What else? The now shuttered Big Lots at 54th and... Hey guys! Yeah, a bunch of guys just walked past me. And my dog wanted to talk to them. There was a store called, there was a Big Lots at 54th and Division. Before that, it was a Duffler's Family Foods. That's gone. Further down Division, there was Gordy's Supermarket. That closed a couple of years ago. And Gordy's, so the story with Gordy's was, it was a longtime Spartan store. Believe it or not, right across from it was an original Meijer supermarket. That's now like a Asian store. But anyway, the story with Gordy's was, it was owned by a guy named Gordy. I think his last name was like Weemhoff or something like that. And they were famous for their fried food deli and awesome meat department. I love that store. And the story was, so the story was, Gordy retired, he sold it to one of his associates, but Spartan needed a lot of money. So he flipped to IGA. But here's what happened. At the same time, the new Walmart on 54th Street was being built, and he knew that he was going to get killed. So he shuttered the store. And Gordy's remained abandoned for a few years. And then it became, then Gordy's came back for a short time. An Arab family bought it. I think it was either Arab or Indian. Yeah, Indian, because they wore turbans and stuff. And they couldn't make a go of it. So now guess what it is? You guessed it. Dollar General. And it's a problem right here in America. Less suppliers for, it's like when I was a young boy living in Antrim County, Michigan, you had your pick. You had, there were 3 different suppliers for all the grocery stores in that county. Well, maybe even more. I mean, the main ones I can think of were Spartan, Viking, and IGA. And Viking merged with Roundy's, with Scott Ladd Foods. And then Roundy's stopped supplying to stores here up in northern Michigan and everywhere. And Roundy's ended up, I guess they sold their store. I guess what they did was they gave they made some deal with Nash Finch to supply the stores, their stores there. And then, IGA. Once upon a time, IGA had a big presence in northern Michigan. There were a ton of IGAs. And guess what happened? Great North Foods out of Alpena went out of business. They suddenly decided, okay, we're going out of business. They sold all their contracts to, Great Lakes Foods out of, I think it was Menominee up in the UP. I think it was Menominee. But then they sold to Nash Finch. So now, a lot of these these stores that were once really tiny IGA stores, what's funny was when I was a kid, Spartan would never supply a store that was under 15,000 square feet. And now, Spartan, because of their merger with Nash Finch and all that, they got a ton of tiny ass stores now. And it's going to change even more when CNS takes over. But the sad truth is I love the idea. Yeah, I know, Trix. My dog's talking to me. Sorry, I had to go back into my car. My dog was having a fit. Yeah, it's... Holy crap, my car says it's 92 degrees. So, what's going on, folks, is I like the idea of the government getting into the grocery business because, what's funny is I actually have a couple of coworkers whose families once owned Spartan affiliated stores, including one of my supervisors. His father managed a store here in Grand Rapids, and his mother's brother owned a Spartan store, and she was a manager there too. And they both closed, and one became a Family Dollar, the other became Dollar General. And we had this discussion about stores like Dollar General and Family Dollar. And, the sad truth is, owning a grocery store is very cost prohibitive. It's always been a cost prohibitive business. And the only way to truly make a profit is, if you join a co-op like Spartan or used to be back in the day, and that's exactly what happened in Antrim County where I grew up. There, back in the 30s, there was a grocer in Ellsworth named Tony Shooks out of Ellsworth. Tony had a small grocery store, and he and a few other grocers banded together to form Associated Grocers. And then the company that would later become Spartan Stores bought them out, and they ran as a co-op for many, many years. And then Spartan decided, okay, we're going to be a for-profit company. And in the late 90s, Shooks Market actually had to go out of business. And the reason why was because Spartan went from being a grocery store co-op to let's only support stores that, are really big. And I think the law was 15,000 square feet and a minimum of 75,000 a month. Those were the stores Spartan wanted because they felt that because they were persnickety about what stores they wanted to supply. And now, because of the Spartan-Nash merger, which actually did some good, at least, they do supply stores that, were Spartan stores from way back in the day, but aren't anymore. Of course, one store that comes to mind is NJ's up in Lake Lee and outside Traverse City. Of course, sadly, right now, as of this broadcast, NJ's is actually closed after a fire, and they're gonna, I hope they get everything cleaned up and back in business real soon. But anyway, there's one person who is not necessarily a fan of Zohran. And guess who it is? New York Governor Kathy Hochul. Because she has said, so one of the things that Zohran wants to raise taxes on the wealthy. And I agree. That's what progressives do. Raise taxes on the wealthy. But now Kathy is crying that now, because of this, the wealthy in New York City are going to try to leave town to go to Palm Beach. And of course, that's code for people like Donald Trump, and oh yes, Howard Stern. Let's remember, if you're a hardcore Stern fan like me, you know that Howard does not do his show, part of the year from New York City anymore. He has a mansion down in Florida, and he lives there during the wintertime, and then he comes back up to New York during the summer, and of course Howard is off the air until September. Yeah, he takes summer vacation every year because that's part of his contract with Sirius. Even though I'm going to admit this to you, I love Howard a lot. I agree with a lot of people that the show isn't what it used to be. I miss the strippers. I miss Robin's News. I hate some of these dopey interviews that he had in recent months. Like, he had an interview with the guy from Maroon 5. I fucking hate Maroon 5, man. And it's like, I actually had to I actually had to turn my radio off. It's like, dude, I don't give a fuck about Maroon 5. I don't give a fuck if if the guy from Maroon 5 is your friend. I mean, he's a total dingleberry, and whatever. But the point is, this is why I totally agree with Zohran. Wealthy people, I mean, they need to help others out. There is excessive wealth in this country. I mean, take a look at what's going on in Italy right now with Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez. Look at their wedding. Believe it or not, they have a guest list of 200 people. Guess how many family members they've invited? 7. Just 7 people. And the rest are all celebrities. Oprah Winfrey's there. For an example, the Kardashians are there. Yeah, the same family that made O.J. Simpson a free man. The sad truth is, this is exactly why I look down on this. This is why the Democrats need to wake up. It's because I look at the last election and all these people who were stumping for Kamala Harris. I look at the fact that Oprah and Beyonce, all these heavyweight celebrities, Taylor Swift. These people don't speak for people like me. And meanwhile, Donald Trump, was going on Joe Rogan's podcast. He did a 3-hour interview, and that's one of the reasons why he got elected. He went to the people. Whereas Kamala, I live near, folks, as I said multiple times, I grew up near Traverse City, Michigan. Donald Trump was 3 hours late for his appearance there because of that interview he had with Joe Rogan. And then Kamala turned around and said, and bashed him. And I was like, okay, Kamala, how many times have you been to Traverse City? 0. Do you even care about, about hardworking Americans? This is why she lost the election, folks, and this is why we are stuck with this madness. The Democratic Party needs to stop thinking about the wealthy. And that's Kathy Hochul's problem. And that's a huge reason why I want to stand up and say, maybe she's just a hoity-toity person. She's a little bit too much. We got too many people in the middle, politically, in terms of being a Democrat. Hell, look at what happened. Somebody called for the impeachment of Donald Trump this week. And guess which U.S. representative was against it? Are you ready for this? Hillary Scholten. She said no. She's a Democrat. And what's funny was the 2 representatives before her in the same district who were both Republicans, and they voted to impeach Trump. What the fuck is wrong here? But then again, I look at Hillary Scholten, and, she is a centralist. In one of her campaign commercials, it showed her it began with a picture of an open Bible. And, she was appealing to, Jesus freaks. And I'm like, okay, is this a commercial for a Democrat or a commercial for focus on the family? And that's what it is, folks. Hillary Scholten is just another wolf in sheep's clothing. And when, and you look at people like Kathy Hochul, I totally agree. We need people, folks, like Zohran Mamdani. We need them big time. And if he's elected mayor of New York City, then the people of New York have spoken. The only problem that with Zohran is that he cannot be president because he's not an American, unfortunately. He was not born here. But AOC can run. And I hope and pray, maybe not pray. I don't know if I want to pray or not. But I hope that in the next few years, people will wake up and speak out against people like Trump and all these people who want to take away our First Amendment rights. Folks, do what you can to support the First Amendment. When people tell you to don't listen to this guy because he's anti-religious, listen to him or her. That's a huge reason why I love Howard Stern. He spoke out for so many years against the religious right. And ditto with porn. That's why I'd rather go to a strip club than the church. I told you. I've seen, so many people who are anti-porn are sickos. They're pedophiles. They're crooks. They don't pay their taxes. I don't want a part of their bullshit. And these people who work as strippers, as sex workers, they're trying to make it too. And they deserve, it's like, this is why I would rather go to a Muskegon to go to a bar, they have a full bar, folks. They have a full bar, fully naked women, total touch lap dances. It's probably one of the best strip clubs I've ever been to. It's not as ritzy as the Deja Vu clubs, but I recommend it. I'd rather go to Odyssey than to go to, anywhere else. So anyway, that's all I have to say about that. Folks, 2026 can't come close enough. I hope more people will run as true progressives instead of all these fakes out there who are true dinos. Let's get the dinos out of the government and put true progressive Democratic socialists in. We need to fix our economy. We need to fix our way of life. I don't want to hear, these people want to raise our taxes. They want to raise the taxes on the wealthy. That's who they want to raise taxes for. Not for you and me. Middle class people deserve a tax break. Not people like Jeff Bezos. Okay? Or any of his celebrity friends. The small guy is what makes America great. Anyway, my dog's a little anxious. I've wasted some gas trying to keep this car cool. Have a great day, everyone. I'll talk to you later.